Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Rudd Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2008 movie titled Kill Switch. Now, Kill Switch is a thriller that runs for 1 hour and 28 minutes long. It is directed by John Madden. It is produced by Lawrence Bender and Richard Gladstein. It is executive produced by John Madden, Elmore Leonard, Erica Steinberg, Bob and Harvey Weinstein. It is based on the novel Killshot, written by Elmore Leonard. The script was written by Hossein Amini. The score was done by Klaus Badelt. The cinematography by Caleb Deschanel. And the editing was done by Mick Audsley and Lisa Gunning. And the stars of this movie are Mickey Rourke, Thomas Jane, Diane Lane, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Rosario Dawson, and a cameo appearance by Hal Holbrook. Now, Killshot stars Mickey Rourke as a Native American mobster named Armand Blackbird Davis, whose agenda is to murder anyone who seeks his facial identity or who happens to watch him in the line of action. He angers off the Toronto mob by killing off one of his cohort's girlfriend because she saw his homely visage. He goes into seclusion and forms an alliance with an irritable small-time crook by the name of Richie Nix, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And to get some extra cash, they take their act to a real estate office for protection money. A married couple who is not on good terms right now, Wayne and Carmen Coulson, played by Thomas Jane and Diane Lane, have seen Blackbird's ugly mug, and now he has to kill them. But as I would expect, the idiot somehow misses, which leads our victims to enter a witness protection program, which is just as well since they have to act like they're happily married without a worry in the world. Blackbird, however, has determination, though. He goes as far as to fake his death, so when the couple returns home, he can make another attempt at to shoot them, only to once again miss. No! Fortunately, the couple have better shooting range than the native guy. In fact, personally, I think Wayne Coulson, I hate to say this, but this guy is kick-ass. I mean, he seems more shifty and resourceful, and seems like he could pull off what the RCMP or the Toronto mob can do. I mean, okay, so, alright, I'm confused here. One of the things that confuses me about this movie is, why is this movie called Killshot? The better title would have been Bumbleshot. Because every time Blackbird and Nix have the opportunity to kill the couple, they miss their marks. They always do. They seem to plot some kind of clever scheme to kill these two guys, which is really their big ambition in this movie. But every time they have the chance, the opportunity, they miss. I mean, maybe these guys were both in the wrong line of business. In fact, Wayne himself seems to be more of a lethal guy than the bad guys here, even at the point where he successfully manages to throw Nix from a window and onto a gazebo. I mean, too bad this thriller was more focused on a Lifetime TV atmosphere, as Wayne tries to do everything he can to repair his marriage with Carmen. I mean, the scenes involving Wayne and Carmen Coulson are practically boring as hell. In fact, there are many times when I'm more interested in the antagonists than the protagonists themselves. Blackbird and Nix, they have some interesting stuff going for them in this movie, But it's just too bad that their screen time is very limited, as we try to see, as, you know, Wayne and Carmen are just, you know, like, their marriage is on the rocks, and they're just trying to find ways to reconcile their differences. And there are many times when I also find Carmen Coulson to be not exactly a likable person per se. I mean, it seems like the only time she ever really depends on Wayne is when she's in trouble. And then in Wayne, you know, he is kind of a kick-ass individual. I mean, he actually outsmarts these two bumbling idiots. And then when the time comes for him to try to reconcile with her, she gives him the bum's rush after that. Oh, okay, so he's good enough to okay, so he's good enough to save her life from danger. But when it comes to personal issues, she, like, tells him they hit the road. I mean, it's like, what kind of gratitude is that? And that's the kind of thing I found about this movie. You know? I mean, I understand that the bad guy characters are not supposed to be likable, but when the leading characters are equally unlikable, why bother if I care if these guys get shot off or not? May as well just be intrigued by the bad guy characters and root for them. And that's what kind of had me ticked off. I mean, I know that this movie was supposed to have been released by Miramax back in the late 90s, and I know this was actually supposed to have been a production that the Weinsteins were supposed to take part in, and their original intent was to have Robert De Niro play the role of Armand Blackbird Davis, and Quentin Tarantino was supposed to play the role that Joseph Gordon-Levitt was supposed to play, Richie Nix. But then that project was kind of like put on the shelf, and there's a little bit of a more of the story continues. It came out in 2006 originally. That's when the release date was. But then it was kind of like stalled for a couple of years, and then it came to the theaters in 2008, but was quickly taken off the box office shortly after that. I guess it was probably due to poor box office rates. So then it went straight directly to video. And I guess you could say I do take sympathy that it was like placed on a bit of some unfair consequences. But still, you know, hey, I know this movie was direct for video, and I know I'm not expecting to see, you know, anything groundbreaking or anything life-changing or anything that seems to be somewhat near an Oscar performance. Razzie maybe, but not Oscar. Anyhow, what do you think about it? Are we supposed to believe that this unskilled couple were able to overthrow this mobster and his dumb sidekick, which the FBI and the Toronto mob weren't able to accomplish? I mean, it might be possible to upstage the Toronto mob, though they do exist, but the mafia in Canada is less nefarious than their American counterparts, unless you want to, you know, like, accept the Montreal mob, which are, of course, the Rizzuto family. They're kind of a bit of a powerful group, and, you know, I kind of sometimes think that there should be like a movie biopic based on them. You know, think about it. I could probably see a Genie Award nomination somewhere. But that's only just my opinion. Okay. Let me tell you something, okay? I am a huge fan of Mickey Rourke. Whether even with his poor career choices. But here, he's up there in one of the poorest performances as a Caucasian guy acting as a Native American. Now, I probably might take this as a bit of an offense, being that I am North American Indian myself. But at the same time, you know, I really think that, you know, it's not just him pretending to be a native guy that offended me. It was actually just the performance itself was pretty bad. This movie really was not very good. Not exactly entirely the fault of the performers or the production company, but I guess you could say there was probably a lot of poorness in terms of the production, and I think that was where it was mostly to blame. I'm not going to entirely ostracize the performers, but you know, let's face it, I know that these guys are all capable of being in better roles, and they have actually succeeded in being in better roles than this one. And that also includes Thomas Jane, Diane Lane. She is one of the most underrated performers of all time. Mickey Rourke, you know, he came off from a very strong performance in the 2008 movie The Wrestler, where he's Oscar nominated. Now he's in this movie, and let's just face it, that's a far cry from his role in The Wrestler. This movie was awful. Joseph Gordon-Levitt actually kind of annoyed me, and I actually was happy during the dinner scene with Carmen Colston eating dinner in her underwear, and then Blackbird shooting off Richie Nix, because I really couldn't stand that guy. As for Rosario Dawson, her role was wasted. Hal Holbrook, he didn't have much to do, and he was also badly wasted as well. Let's face it, this movie did not impress me quite a bit. I'll go as far to say that his portrayal of a Caucasian guy being a Native American was even worse than when George C. Scott played one in the movie Firestarter. I'll cut him some slack, being the fact that I have to admit Mickey Rourke kind of almost looks like an evil doppelganger to Steven Seagal. And I think this movie would have been more better if Steven Seagal performed Armin Blackbird Davis. This was kind of more of a Seagal caliber movie as opposed to Mickey Rourke. I do like the performers Thomas Jane and Diane Lane, but hey, I think they have potential to be starring in better films than this piece of garbage. They were just badly wasted in thankless roles like these ones. Thanks to the mundane script by Hossein Amini, the Coulsons are practically just one-dimensional caricatures. Their roles of trying to mend the relationships was boring as hell, and you know, for a thriller movie, there wasn't really much to be thrilled about. It was predictable, it was wanton, and it just did not give me any kind of thrill at all. I'm not saying that it was entirely deplorable, but it was close enough to being that. And I think, you know, giving this movie a mediocre score was probably too generous on my part. The main gripe I have here is that after 3 years of sitting on the shelf collecting dust before, is that this movie went direct to video, but it was also directed in the wrong hands of director John Madden. And I'm not talking about the football coach John Madden, but John Madden, the guy who directed one of the great pieces of late 90s cinema, Shakespeare in Love. I mean, what's he doing directing this low-brow movie? I mean, this is something that I would not put on my resume if I was John Madden himself. And I'm sure that there are other directors capable to direct a gripping novel based on Elmer Leonard's stuff, based on Elmer Leonard's book titled Killshot. You know, it was actually kind of shameful that that Elmer Leonard himself served as the executive producer. I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe he was just a little more lenient because he was getting on with age, And, you know, I'm sorry that, you know, Elmer Leonard passed away in 2013. God rest his soul. I mean, he's wrote many, many great thriller novels. And Killshot actually is one of those. But when you take such a great novel like Killshot and turn it into an abomination like this one, I think that's actually kind of disrespectful. I'm a big fan of Elmore Leonard. I love his novels, and you know, he really, I mean, I really think this was a bad adaptation. Poor production, poor acting, poor direction, poor script. Everything was mediocre. I mean, this movie was definitely quite a fumble. If I was to give it a score out of 10, I'm being too generous. But I think I'll just have to give it a 5. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, please do. Remember, be kind, be courteous, don't be rude, and I will be back again with another review. So until next time, this is Eric Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.